Hey everyone, Christina Simmons from Say Yes to Holiness here. So one of the things that I have been reading and reflecting on this last week has been about the power of provocation. And what do I mean by that? Most of us, when we think of being provoked, we think it's someone doing something to make us angry, someone doing something that makes us respond, out of emotion versus, being thoughtful and, and taking proper steps. But another way to look at it is, instead of just provoking, in a negative context, is to be provoked to take action. So the idea of provoking one another to love and to do good deeds. And there's nothing more important, especially during the Lenten season, is to be encouraged and to be provoked to doing the things that God is asked of us all the time. But the church in particular really helps us focus during Lent on what we are supposed to be about. We're supposed to always be about prayer. We're always supposed to be about fasting from, setting aside those things that are preventing us from deeper relationship with God. And we should always be about almsgiving, those works of mercy, the corporal and the spiritual works of mercy. We should always be about these things. But so often we're not. So often we're more focused upon what's going on in our lives, and we're not attentive to those around us, because it could be for good reason. Could be we have a lot of things that are going on we have to tend to, but the fact is that we're not called to look internally at ourselves, but rather we're called to look out in love. This is what we're called to. And in order to do that, of course, we need people who will provoke us. We need holy friendship. We need community. So often we'll begin this Lenten journey and we will take a position that, well, my resolutions are my own. They're mine, they're private, I'm not going to share them. But we all know that when we don't share our resolutions, what happens? Usually we're able to justify in our mind one reason or two or three or 10 why we can set aside our resolution, or make allowances for why we don't have to follow the resolution in this moment or that day. And then what happens? One day becomes another, becomes another, becomes another. And then we turn around and our resolutions and all of our intents, all of our hopes, all of what we had promised our Lord that we would be about, we've set aside. And this is why we need community. We can't be about this journey on our own. It's not possible. It really isn't. So to begin with, we need Jesus. We need Jesus to begin with in order to help us, in order to be filled with His grace to even attempt what we are trying to do, which is to grow in love and knowledge of our Lord. This is what we're trying to do during Lent. We're not trying to, it's not a self-improvement project, okay? Rather, it's about us growing closer to Him so that He can transform us, so that, just like this last weekend, we have the vision of the transfiguration before us, so that someday we know that we too can be transfigured. And this is what we are about. We are desiring to become saints. And when we become saints, what happens? We are transfigured into our best selves. We're transfigured into who God created us to be at the very beginning. But in order to do that, again, we need to sometimes be provoked. I am reading and living out Becoming Built to Lead. It's a leadership book by Chet Scott, and it's absolutely For anyone who wants to grow as a leader, and all of us are called to leadership in whatever role we might be, as leaders of our families, of leaders of our communities, our neighborhoods, our workplaces, all of us are called to lead. So it's a value to anyone. But today, in particular, it was talking about agitating. And Chet makes this comment. He says, deep change is irritating, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes acutely painful. Most humans can't do it alone. But most humans don't have a truth teller, a pain in the side, beside them to help them be able to embrace that change that's irritating, uncomfortable, and sometimes painful. So what are we to do? We're to find community. We're to seek out holy friendship. We are to be about helping others, especially in our church community. In fact, the idea of provoking one another to love and good deeds is actually written by St. Paul in his letter to the Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 24. So from the very beginning, we've been told we need to provoke one another to love and good deeds. We are to provoke, and it can be in simple ways. It can be in inviting someone to pray the rosary with you. It can be in going and visiting someone and spending time with them and inviting them to pray for the intentions of the community, for example. It could be just going out and having a meal with someone, or inviting someone over to your own house for a meal. All these different ways allow us to lift each other up and to be able to remind one another about what we are about who we are. We're sons and daughters of God. And when we do this, we need to not neglect meeting with one another, spending time with one another in community. And when we do, don't just be nice to your friend, provoke them a little bit. But the key is provoke with kindness. And what does kindness look like? Kindness is love in action. Kindness is sometimes tender and is sometimes tough. So it's about listening to your friend and knowing whether or not they need a good kick in the bum, or whether or not they just need a shoulder to comfort them and then to encourage them that they are capable of doing this with God's help, with Jesus, and with the love and support of family and friends. So one of the biggest things is that we can't be afraid of risking losing them. We can't be afraid of this, because we need to continue to provoke one another to be able to keep reaching. The elites never stop reaching. The elites always are reaching and stretching and are looking for that feedback of, how can I get better? How can I become more fully myself? How can I become the unique and unrepeatable creation that God created me to be? And when we do that for one another, we're helping each other become elite. And who are the elite? They're the saints. So the saints never are satisfied. They never are satisfied with comfort. They're always seeking to be provoked for that agitation. But provoke with kindness, and provoke to love and to good deeds. I hope that this has served you, and I also want to make sure to invite you. The Alpha online series is still ongoing. This next week we're going to be talking about how can we have faith. In other words, what does it mean? What does it look like to be a Christian? But we also have great conversations coming up about, why did Jesus die? Who is it? How can I come to know God's will for me? All of these big questions that now is the perfect time to be reflecting upon them. And not just for ourselves, but also for others. So if this is something that even touches your heart in the least, go to my website, sayyes2holiness.com, and sign up for the Alpha online courses. All that does is it gets you an email to remind you that we're going live on Monday evenings from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it also gets you the replay sent to you. So I hope that you will find this to be something that can help you continue to grow in love of our Lord, and it deepens your Lenten journey. And invite someone along with you, because we all need to reflect on these questions, because we all need to be in community, and we all need to provoke one another to love and good deeds, but do it with kindness. God bless.